Hey everyone, so today's video I wanted to talk about the new attack ether hero, which is Zhu Yuan. I'm very impressed with this agent's damage output. I think she's probably the best damage dealing hero that we have in the game, which, makes sense for a gacha game. Usually the most the most recent hero that people end up putting out in these games end up being the best heroes. Power creep is a thing. But she does come with a caveat. I think she's kind of hard to play. This is for the people that don't think that the combat in the game is easy. I do think once you get up to some higher levels, the combat does get pretty difficult. So that is, something to keep in mind with Zhu Yuan. But anyway, quick brief overview. I'm not going to go too much into detail here. I'm going to play some clips and then we're going to talk about some things, while we go over, some gameplay that I had with her. So she has some pretty decent damage. She is the ether, attribute, which is a big thing. Before her, all we had was Nicole to do ether damage. And a lot of the gameplay right now in the game is centered around ether, ice, or electric damage. You do have some of the fire, physical, all of those things, but the general gameplay, most of it is ether weakness, ice weakness, things like that. So this hero, this agent being a ether attribute, is very good. Corruption as well is a pretty good anomaly. It just further enhances your ether damage, so that goes without saying. She does have a pretty decent attack stat, and then she has a really good W engine as well. I've seen some people undervaluing W engines. I don't really understand that. Some of the effects in W engines are pretty nuts. So yeah, she has pretty good stats overall. Her skills are nice as well, but again, kind of hard to play. But her core passive is very good. She has two different types of modes in her basic ability, which we will talk about here in a second. But she has like a regular mode and then a suppressive mode. And in her suppressive mode, she's kind of like rapid firing shots, and it should do ether damage. If you have the right kind of bullets in, because she does like hand-to-hand combat along with shooting. It's actually a really cool design character. But while she's in those modes, her damage is increased, and then if the enemy is stunned, if the daze bar is absolutely full, then she does an additional 30%. So she's jamming out damage. On top of that, she gets 6 of those enhanced shot shells with her core passive, which is really good because that's where most of her damage comes in. If she doesn't have those shot shells, then she's not going to deal a lot of damage, but you'll see that when we play the gameplay. And then if you have Nicole in your team, because she is the only other support character, and I don't think it's any support character. I thought it was going to be an ether support character, but she pairs very well with Nicole. So that's how I would use her with anyway. But yeah, if you have a support character with her crit rate is automatically increased by 30% as soon as she uses an EX, chain attack, or ultimate. So yeah, her abilities are very good. So like I said, she has like these 2 different modes for her basic. It's assault and suppression mode. It's just, different types of basic attacks. I'm not going to go into it in detail. The thing I will say is her dash attacks, like the overwhelming firepower, where it says you have to drag the joystick here. It's hard. It is hard to use that while you're in suppressive mode because you are just like rapid firing shots off. And to time when you drag your joystick to dodge an attack, it doesn't really work, in my opinion. So that's one of the things that is kind of a knock on her, is the timing on being able to dodge effects and then also switch between characters, for defensive assists and things like that, are pretty tough. So that is the one knock on her. However, Her EX special attack does good damage. It also gives her the enhanced bullets, and her ultimate ability does crazy amount of damage. You'll see that from the gameplay. So from her equipment, I have just some broken stats here, and I don't have everything leveled up either. Like her weapon is actually just base attack, and it's pretty bad. But I'm just using it. I was just using it for the crit rate. I need to get much better pieces of gear. So she's nowhere near where she could be in regards to her potential, but she's still putting out crazy amount of damage for me on a very, very basic type of account. I do have her W engine though, and this is the thing that I wanted to touch on. Her W engine gives really good crit damage abilities, and you saw already with her core passive that she gets 30% crit rate whenever she does one of those three things, the EX special attack, chain attack, or ultimate. So you're able to fire off a good chunk of attacks that will crit. On top of that, this W engine gives her 15% crit rate baseline. So if you plan around critting after you use her special EX ability, chain attack, or ultimate, you really only need 55% crit rate. And then you have the 45 built in, from her W engine, and then also her passive ability on her core skill. So that's what that W engine kind of opens up, along with that 30%, and plus crit damage. It's nuts. On top of that, she has those charge stacks that this W engine talks about, where it increases her skill's damage by 35%. It's just like baseline raw damage. Like I said, crazy amounts of damage output. This is her gear, for anybody who's aware, who wants to know. I get some crit rate substats here. I do have a crit rate number 4 piece. I have found that to be the most useful, in the early game that we're in right now, just because it's so hard to get crit rate substats. And you want to be critting most of the time. I do have an ether bonus damage. The reason I'm doing this is the anomaly ability for ether heroes really depends on maximizing ether damage. So whenever the enemy gets corrupted, which is the anomaly that ether gives, it just increases the amount of damage they'll take from ether attributes. So you really want to maximize the ether damage bonus, which is why I went with this piece. And then she does have an anomaly mastery on the 6th slot. I've been testing this out just because of the bonus damage that you get whenever the enemy is corrupted. Also, they kind of become stunned if they're weak to the ether attribute, which is when you want to bring in agents like Zhu Yuan here. So anyway, let's jump into some gameplay that I record. We'll talk about some of the damage and things like that, but also the gameplay and how she's kind of hard to control. Okay, so as far as the gameplay goes, at the beginning, you do start with those enhanced bullets with Zhu Yuan. So as long as you have those, her damage output is very good. If you have just regular physical damage, she's not going to be out scaling Ellen's damage when it comes to, the ice and physical damage. However, once she does have those enhanced bullets, the damage output is better than Ellen's for sure. Which is nice because there are some enemies in the game that are only weak to ether. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pull for the hero, is just to give me more variance, also to make content for people. But yeah, you can just see the amount of damage that she's doing. She melts the boss's health bar whenever she has those bullets. And how you do that is through a perfect dodge. And that's what I was kind of mentioning with her dash attack. You can enable a perfect dodge with a dash attack as long as you do it at the right time. And if you do that, you end up getting an enhanced, bullet, which, as I said, that's how she's doing most of her damage. You also get some from using her EX special ability. Her ultimate ability gives you that as well. So you really want to maximize those attacks to make sure that you get those enhanced bullets, which are right underneath her icon. That's how you know whether you have them or not. So if you do have them, yes, she's going to be crazy damage output. She's flipping all over the place. Like, that's what I said. She's very kind of hard to control. But it might not matter, for some players. I think whenever you get up to the higher ends of the game, the combat certainly does get harder. But if you're kind of just playing at your own pace, you're not at the end game yet, you're not pushing Hollow Zero, you're not pushing, Shiyu defense, anything like that, then she's going to seem amazing to you. And I still think she's an absolutely fantastic agent. But that is the one downside, is the toughness on, figuring out how to control her. But when I was showing the stats of her at the beginning of the video, I was showing that the anomaly mastery, I kind of built that up. That's because I do want, these enemies to get corrupted. If they end up getting corrupted, that's whenever the ether damage is enhanced even more. So it's kind of just something that I'm playing out with. Because her damage output is already crazy good, and if you end up having multiple ways to, get those enhanced bullets while they're corrupted, like that enemy is corrupted right here and she unleashes her ultimate, and that probably took off a solid 20% of his HP off of one ultimate ability. So that's kind of what I'm playing around with. But I've really liked her. I think she is a fantastic hero to pull, especially with all of the type of gameplay that they have right now with enemies that are weak against ether heroes. And Nicole being the only other ether option, she's just a fantastic pick. So anyway, guys, that's all I have. I just wanted to do a quick overview of the new agent. I think she's 100% worth pulling. Just be aware that she will be hard to control. It's going to have to take some practice. She pairs well with Nicole, obviously. She pairs well with a lot of good stun heroes, too. If you want to pair her up with stun, I think that is the general consensus on team building right now, is a stun hero, some kind of support, and then just attack-based. If you are a little bit behind on doing content where your account level is a little too high, I think you can certainly get away with 2 attack heroes and then a support or a stun hero, but do not underestimate, dazing enemies or anything of that nature. When enemies are stunned, they just take so much more damage. It'll make your fights way quicker. Don't underestimate that. All right. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.